Good morning, KW Prosperity. It is Matt and Mary Beth with you here on this Monday, April 13th. It happens to be my niece's birthday today, so happy birthday to my niece Michelle. She's turning
Happy
8
birthday,
years old.
Michelle.
8 years old today, so that's a big one for her.
Aw. Are they
Yeah, it's
doing anything special?
yeah, we're doing a family Zoom call. We did one over the weekend. We're trying to coordinate one today. It's just, it's interesting because for kids, like, birthday is such a big deal. So she's been so devastated that, like, she's not having something. So my brother and sister-in-law, they're having fire trucks go through at 4 o'clock. So it'll say happy birthday, Michelle. So uh,
It's Steve saying happy birthday, Michelle.
yeah, so it'll be cool. But how's your weekend?
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
So we were homeschooling with my sister-in-law and the 3 kids,
Nice.
and we've been around each other anyway, so we just figured why not get together for Easter,
Yeah.
be safe and just still be able to spend with family. So we had a really nice day, and then it was my sister-in-law's birthday a couple weeks ago before, when this started. So we had a line outside of our house at like 2 p.m. and
Nice.
they brought her a gift, and social distancing for sure.
Of course.
But thank you for asking.
You're welcome. Well, so today last week we finished up Shift Tactic 10, we did that with Shane, and that was all on creative financing. And today we're going to be diving into tactic number 11, which is master the market of the moment. So we'll be touching on short sales, foreclosures, REOs, and just honestly, just different things that are going on in the market right now. Not necessarily specific to those three, but
Well, yeah, Matt, I mean, if I have your permission,
yeah.
I think we could pivot a bit in this shift chapter to really just, I had identified about 4 different markets of the moment, and they may not line up with what, in this book specifically at this time in the market, it was a condition where we had less buyers, more sellers, the prices were falling, we had tons of inventory. It was, so there was a different temperature in the market when this was written. And I think it would be really relevant to our watchers to discuss some of the 2020 markets of the moment that will evolve out of and that are going on right now, what they could be doing right now to generate transactions.
Absolutely, and that was kind of my thought too. As I was reading through this, I thought this is very pertinent information. We'll definitely touch on some of this stuff in here without a doubt. But I liked what you put on your board, or you had texted me before, because I think those really are the markets of the moment. So we'll talk about that. Before I turn the floor over to you real quick, I do just want to read the quote that's at the top of page 223, because I think it's always a good way to start. And this quote's by H.T. Leslie, and it says, "The game of life is not so much in holding a good hand as playing a poor hand well." And I think that really speaks to the moment right now, which is right now we're not really dealing with a very good hand right now. Yet, as it says here, holding a good hand, it's not so much in holding a good hand, it's playing a poor hand well. And that's what we're going to teach you today.
Awesome. Great point in that this quote here is that everybody has the same hand right now.
Yep.
We've talked about that a little bit before, that this kind of situation is actually leveling the playing field, in that if everybody just wants to create their new business, their new way of doing things right now, it's new, it's the only thing out there. I myself am a homeowner in a town. I have 2 homes in the same city that I'm thinking about what Mike Michalowicz said last week in our Thursday call, which was be that hyper local market resource right now. Get out there and share the information that you have. And I'm thinking to myself that there's nobody doing that at all. And my point is, anybody could come in and be that person right now, because everybody's got the same poor hand.
Yep.
And you can literally grab attention to everyone. And then regardless of where this market goes, this is your time to dive into these classes, these books, and understand when something gets thrown at us, because we don't know exactly what's going to happen once we come out of this. If the interest rates spike, it may change it just may change what is happening. If the interest rates stay where they're at, it may be something else, right? So this point is everybody's got the same poor hand right now. So there is no woe is me. It's what will you do during this time to activate and thrive coming out of it, or even during it, because we know some agents that are thriving during it also.
So Mary Beth, what I want to do is I want you to highlight the markets of the moment that you identified on your board before. But before you do that, I do want to highlight the 3 markets of the moment that are identified on page 225.
Go ahead.
Because I think that some of these will become markets of the moment, which are short sales, number 1, individuals or families trying to avoid foreclosure, which, Mary Beth, we do have a question in our chat box, which is, do you think there will be an increase in short sales?
Okay. So, well, that's one of the markets I do believe may come out of this, but
Yeah.
and go ahead, go on to the other 3, and then I'll go back to the first one that Steve's asking about, which is the short sale market.
Yep. So first one of the markets of the moment, number 1 is short sales. Number 2 is foreclosures. So bargain hunters and investors seeking to buy value. And number 3 are REOs, which are financial institutions with an above average number of foreclosures to sell. And now I do think that page 226 up at the top, which kind of illustrates a lot of this, I really liked this flow chart, which really talks about when the market shifts, it first goes to where there's less buyers and more sellers. Then average home prices fall. Then it moves to sellers get upside down short sales and defaults, which moves then to foreclosures increase. And then REOs hit the market. The average home prices fall further. Then more sellers get upside down, more defaults, and then foreclosures increase, and then more REOs hit the market. So I really liked the way that cycle went. And ultimately what it's saying is the cycle gets broken when prices become attractive enough for buyer reluctance to turn into buyer urgency. So that's when the market will start to shift back in the other direction.
Perfect. And so the question is, which way will it shift? And I think all of this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And like some other people have said, we don't have crystal ball, and I'm not claiming to say that this is happening, but these calls are meant for discussions on these topics so that we can really have some insight as to what is potentially happening, vision for our clients, and then we can have clarity on how we need to steer our ship. So when we talk about this distressed market, okay, that is basically one of the markets that's the second market that I had identified. But that is one of the markets. The market would be that we have a lot of unemployment happening, right? We're talking about going up to 25% unemployment. I don't even know what the numbers are. I honestly have stopped watching the news to get my headspace right. So if there's anything out there that I need to know, please text me. And so you're going to have people that have lost their income and maybe are not in positions to be on furlough that they're going to get a job back, or may not be in positions to go and find a job even in the field they're working. Their field may become obsolete. Okay, so we have lots of job loss right now. That is going to factor into people being approved to get mortgages, and it's also going to really impact those who need to be making payments. So you also have people that are going to lean on the idea that they can get free mortgage for the next 3 months and make some major mistakes by not the 3-month forbearance, Steve, exactly. So you have, will the 3-month forbearance mortgage relief program really help owners? The challenge is, if you're not getting the right information and you're not clearly understanding what your specific bank is going to do for you. Now, some of us have you dealt with a loan officer, but the loan officer sold the loan. So you need to deal with the bank that the mortgage is held at. And you need to ask what in your income level matters and the bank matters. And so what we are noticing is most banks are not even, they're deferring the payment, but it is due. They're just not going to, they'll defer it for 3 months and it will all be due in the 3 months. So if you have a $2,000 mortgage and you are having a hard time paying $2,000 this month, what makes you think that 3 months from now you're going to have 6,000 to throw at this bank? And so some people have not gotten the right advice, and I do think that because of ignorance, and it's a true ignorance. It's not a bad word. It's just it is.
Mhm.
People don't, and that's why we need to be the resources out there sharing with our communities how to find out the right information to get people through this time.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you have people who are going to go into default by default, not even by design. They didn't even realize it. And that will affect some people. They'll need to maybe modify or potentially move. Some people, when they get to that point, might be so, and this is honest, Matt, some people might be so pissed off that they go, I'm not paying the mortgage, forget it.
Yeah.
And they literally go back into what we experienced in 2008, 9, 10. They're just gonna just live on the house, not take care of it, take out the fixtures of the house. And when they're done and ready to leave, when the sheriff comes knocking and it is a foreclosure, that's when they'll leave. So will we see that? I think that there's a potential part of our market that, yes, we can see that. Okay. So you have all of that distress. So short sales will happen because some people who really are having hardship, and that is in this chapter, what a hardship letter really looks like.
Yep.
If they are having hardship, I do advise you talk to the bank and see if you can do a loan modification. But if you're not being told to do that, those people also might become a distressed property. And so with that, what kind of opportunities bring distressed properties? Tons. And that would be your investor market, your first time home buyer market. Who is the distressed properties not good for? New sellers coming on the market, because those distressed properties affect the comparable and the value of their neighbors.
Absolutely. And you were mentioning the hardship letter and documentation. That's on page 231 in the Shift book. So if you have the Shift book, you can follow along. If not, Allison had emailed out the entire PDF. Another thing that I think you're going to see an increase in, maybe not this month, but over time, Gary writes in the book that you're going to see an increase in for sale by owners, because essentially what's going to happen is sellers are going to try to save on commission and think that they can sell it themselves. Now, the one thing with that is you have to really keep in mind that, all these for sale by owners are essentially a cry for help. So you really need to go through and be cognizant and be aware of all the for sale by owners, because this is a huge opportunity for you to show the value of being their agent and having a listing presentation that's going to cater towards that.
That's a really great point. And even if I was in the market, so even if the seller doesn't really need to save on the commission, if you got these savvy sellers get wind of, hey, everybody's going through tough times, you don't know what's going on here, my 401k, and the truth is everybody's stuff was cut. So you will see that influx. On top of that, you're going to also see discounts. They're already asking you to discount your commission. That's why you really need to up your value, incorporate video, incorporate extra services into your services, or they may be able to justify why they're asking you to cut the commission. So to that point is on our end as leaders inside of an organization, Matt, we may see discount brokerages start to pop up again. And so in the absence of value, commission is an objection. And if you provide value, it should never be a problem. Okay, so distressed properties, short sales will definitely come back into play. The only thing I can say is the market's been so good lately that a lot of people have been able to recapture their value. You're not going to see as many when we take a huge hit in prices. And if we come out of this and we do see a great reduction in the value of our homes, then we may see short sales come back. But remember, guys, a short sale means that the seller owes more in their mortgage note than what they can get for it in the market. Yep. So most of our sellers in today's market have a little bit of equity in their property because the properties have just consistently gone up over the last, I don't even know, consistently, or at least the last 5-7 years in most markets. We've had a gradual incline. All right, so that is the distressed guy. The number one, I believe, is the investor. Okay, The investors, the market of the moment is going to be anything that will yield positive cash flow. If you have a huge part of, and this is where we do a better job at explaining to our database, our customer base, that even if you didn't think you were an investor, because people accidentally become investors, they own their first house. Owned my first house, didn't want to let it go because I could get good rent for it, moved on to my next, and then I got a little bug for it. So you have homeowners that have lived in their house for 40 years and there's tons of equity. You may need to train their mindset a bit that, listen, the 401k is not doing it now. Let's take out a $40,000 HELOC or equity line, and let's purchase either little single family homes with no maintenance fees and little property maintenance. Those are always great buy and holds. And so if you're talking to sellers, you might want to go after sellers who might have potentially thought about selling and they have a smaller 2 or 3 bedroom, smaller home, smaller property. They're great rentals. That's one. Number 2 is your 2 and 3 and 4 family properties that are in areas where you have a walking community or public transportation. Okay. Those are always going to be safe properties to invest in. Mm-hmm. And those of us who are little, hyper local niche market specialists, where to find your hot properties, and I would highly encourage you to do so. Then on the distress part, to Steve's point, you want to start to get liquid so that you can go buy those distressed properties. And real estate agents, this is Gary's biggest thing, is why did you get your real estate license? To get real estate, to own real estate. You get the first deals through your fingertips. Why aren't you buying it? So now is your way. You have to get creative on becoming liquid. So when those distressed properties come out, you're grabbing them. Another site I would say on the distressed is go to Hubzu?
Hubzu, yeah.
Hubzu.com,
yeah.
Hubzu, all these different foreclosure sites. You want to be on there looking for yourself. So when you find one, you can grab it, fix it, flip it, buy, fix, hold, whatever.
Well, in much the same way, you're talking about something that they are talking about in the book here with foreclosures, which is similar when, we're talking about the Best Buy list for buyers in the last chapter. We were talking about having a foreclosure list as well. So essentially having, your best list on the foreclosure auction list as well.
Absolutely. And so I would even question why you're even sending that out to anybody, and why you don't just put your own little real estate investor group together and start buying them. And yet, if you cannot right now, because that's not where you are at financially, you be the resource to bring it to investors. And then after 1 or 2, start tacking yourself on in there. I have some really creative people that I've met. Wonderful couple out in, I think she's in Missouri, Kristen. And her husband, basically, for out of state investors, would do all the work, be the general contractor, manage the entire project, show them what they were going to make. So she would charge them for her services and then tack herself on to the investment. There are tons of opportunity to do this without any money. Okay, so we have those. And in other states, they're actually talking about lifting the stay-at-home in Texas on May 5th. So we are seeing some states maybe release a bit. And who says that the investment has to be in New Jersey?
Yeah.
Okay. So there you got other investor ideas, is to go outside of New Jersey to look at what parts of the country our investors could be investing in.
Well, and I also think something that I don't know if we've talked about on this call, but we've talked about with Bill for sure, is that right now, as we're talking about market of the moment, there's people in New York City who are looking to move out of the city. Before people were looking to move into the city, now people are looking to move out of the city, maybe driving back into New York City and not necessarily relying on mass transit and things right now. That through this pandemic, people are like, okay, well, maybe I don't want to go on a train. Maybe I don't want to be on a subway. Maybe I don't want to be doing some of these things that we all took for granted maybe just 1 to 2 months ago.
Yeah. Maybe I don't want to be with a million other people touching things. So, all right, here's my next one, because I know we're cutting short on time now.
Yep.
Is the third one, I believed, was the buyer who is still able to buy. The buyer who's still able to buy and wants to buy don't put them in that category with everybody else who can't get approved because they can't get the job verification at the end of this thing.
Yep.
I would absolutely I would encourage you to go through that list of your buyer pipeline, open houses, maybe do some buyer ads on Facebook and LinkedIn to see who's still out there that is looking, because you are creatively virtually selling, and there's plenty of houses that they could tour with you through Matterport, through virtual tours, through seller virtual tours. So I would say the buyer who still wants to buy and is still able to buy. Now, what could we do there? We could have a buyer seminar. How about a buyer seminar, a first-time home buyer, a home buyer seminar, right from your couch on Saturday morning, or even better yet, Monday at 3. What do we have?
Yeah.
Your customer has nothing to do right now. You have your audience's attention. So that's, the buyer is still out there and they can still get pre-approved. They can still virtually see a house. They can still do it, a drive-by appraisal, and they could put some conditions in the contract to protect them until this lifts and they could physically get into the home. It can happen. We're doing it. And the last one I had on the board, Matt, was, I kind of touched on it, but there's just a double N there, is that seller who's in their house for 40 years. See, I haven't been in my houses for 40 years. I've only been in 2 of them for 3 and 1 for 5, but I have tons of equity. So I'm not that 40 plus year seller, but I'm that investor person who somebody should be talking to me.
Yeah.
I should be talking to me, right? But the last one is that person who is like my mom, who's in the house 40 plus, 30 plus years, and really they're retiring, they're checking out. So I'm going to talk to them right now because they probably want to put their house on the market when this is over and just go down to their Florida house, or buy a Florida house, or downsize because they don't need this that much. Just move on what they want to do that they haven't been doing because they've been so busy. This time is giving a lot of people time to think about what do I want the rest of my life to look like, right? Yeah. So that's the 4 markets I believe. We talked about the unemployed that are going to lose jobs, that are going to need to sell. You have and they're going to be tenants, which means if you're talking to investors, you're going to have tons of tenants coming through, right?
Yeah.
So is your guy who lost his job. The number 2 is your investor. The number 3 is that buyer who's still able to buy. And number 4 is that seller who's been in their home for 30 plus years. So that's where I would put my focus if I were in your shoes.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, to tie this with the chapter, I don't think we really need to go into too much on REOs right now, because that's a very specific field.
Well, REOs will get released. I mean, there's tons of REOs still.
No, there will be, but you really need to understand, I know a lot of people.
The process.
Exactly. I know agents who specifically do REOs, and you can do a ton of REOs if, once you have relationships with, good relationships, and they'll have like an admin, and they could do like 50 properties. You can do a lot of different things. Yet you really need to be very knowledgeable and very invested into that world in order to succeed there.
Absolutely. You have to have deep connections, and it goes from taking action now in that distressed world to get in touch with those banks, because a lot of them have put them on hold. And if the agents who are used to the bank feeding them are depending on that right now, it's not happening, and they may get out of the business. So there's again another opportunity for those who are taking action during this time, moving yourself forward. There's opportunity there.
Yeah, absolutely. And
we're going to have this. This is recorded, and we will be having this posted out when we're done with it as well. It'll be posted to our YouTube channel for those who just got on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we have people watching on Facebook Live as well. One thing that I like at the end of this chapter on page 240, which I know they're talking about REOs when Gary writes this, but I think it's really powerful. He writes, "Don't just be ready because you see the opportunity, and don't just be willing to take the risk because you think you have nothing to lose. Seek the business because you've studied it, learned it, and can successfully do the work. Seek the business because you're able." And I really love that, because I think that ties back to everything we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks, which is just be the expert on all this, whether it's your local neighborhood expert, whether it's the expert on, any of the 4 markets we discussed today, whether it's short sales, whether it's foreclosures, whatever niche you want to tap into or whatever market of the moment you want to tap into, just make sure that you're the expert, make sure you're studying it, and make sure you love it. Make sure that you love what you're tapping into. I think it's really important, especially now, to be doing that.
Absolutely. There's a poem in here that I really love. I just think you're going to want me to read it later on.
Yeah.
But I wanted to know if I could read it.
Yeah, I'd love you to.
Okay. It's called The Farmer's Luck. Okay. It's an old Chinese proverb, I believe, or something like that, or sort of. I don't know where it comes from, but let me just read this because I love it. Gary writes, oh, it's a Taoist tale. Taoist tale. The Farmer's Luck. Many years ago, there lived a farmer who toiled daily in his fields. One day, without warning, his prized horse, the one he relied on to work the land, ran away. When the news reached his neighbors, they arrived at his door to offer consolation. What bad luck, they said with concern. Maybe, answered the farmer. The following morning, the farmer awoke to find his prized horse had returned, and with it, 2 wild horses. Upon bearing the news, neighbors exclaimed, "What good luck!" "Maybe," replied the farmer. The very next day, while trying to tame one of the wild horses, the farmer's son was thrown badly, injured his leg. Again, the neighbors arrived quickly to offer their condolences. "Such bad luck," they said. "Maybe," said the farmer. A day later, officials from the military arrived looking for young men to fight in battle. Recognizing that the farmer's son was badly injured, they did not ask him to enlist. "Such good luck," shouted the neighbors. "Maybe," answered the farmer. And so I just want to, you never know what this market is going to bring. You never know what life is going to bring you. And in a time like now where we're trying to chart our business, like I started in the beginning, I don't know that any of what we just talked about is absolutely going to happen.
Yeah.
We don't know, but we have to be at least conscious of what's going on around us and just see what it means for us, and then take action in a direction that will bring us either a pipeline for when this opens up, or potentially even a great business right now. And I also want to encourage us that if there's something that you're listening to that is inspiring you, or hey, it's keeping you plugged in, making you think a little different, and it was good for you, I would encourage you to share it out there with other people, not even other real estate agents, other people. These tactics could work for any business. And, once again, it's Shift. And if you go to Keller Inc., KELLERINK.com, you'll have tons of resources there. But we have a real opportunistic time to help a lot of people get through this time. Yep. And so I want you guys to challenge yourself this week to think how maybe you could use some of this material, or what you're studying, or what you've been listening to or reading or watching, and share it out there and be a great influence and be the change agent that we need right now.
Yeah. No, I think that's incredibly powerful. And I think that poem, and I think that's a great way to end tactic number 11, which is market of the moment. Tomorrow and Wednesday we'll be moving forward to tactic number 12, which is bulletproof the transaction. I was starting to skim through that a little bit, and I definitely think it'll be worth to go over tomorrow and Wednesday, and then we'll close out the book Thursday and Friday. So kind of close out a Shift the end of this week, and then we'll probably move into or shift into the MREA and business building models next week.
We'll see where we're gonna go, right?
Yeah. Well,
just one more thing though, because Steve Emery is asking a question about, he has a buyer who is able to buy, but they keep thinking that the prices are too expensive. Yeah. Well, I would ask them, what too expensive compared to what? And I mean that because what is too expensive? What is it worth to them then? Have you written any offers? Yeah. This is going to be a market where, make no mistake, if a buyer says, offer them $440 and the house is $575, put it on paper. Put it on paper and say, I don't think, if it's your opinion that is really too low to start, you can say, that's not where I would start. I showed you the comms. However, I'm here to represent you. put it in writing and tell the listing agent, hey, it's not where we start, it's where we finish. Get me a counter. Let's play ball. So don't back down off those buyers. Represent them, and you'd be surprised what kind of what sellers' motivations are right now, and where they're willing to let go. Guys, remember, market value is what a buyer's willing to pay and what a seller's willing to take. We are just there to negotiate and make it happen. It's really, and then interpret the comparatives that come out of all of those agreements that they make. Not our market, guys. So put those offers in, Steve, and let me know where that goes. And with that, we'll see you tomorrow.
Yes. Have a good rest of your day. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.